to go from ADUs and JADUs to water. If you own a well in the Salinas Valley Basin, it must be registered. And registration is an important part of our groundwater monitoring program to help protect our shared resources. And for that, we're very pleased to have someone here in our media center today, Ara Azhderian. He's the general manager of the Water Resources Agency. Let's talk a little bit about this program. We've talked about it before, but it's time to really reiterate the importance of registering these wells. Why do wells need to be registered?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Maya, for having us here today. And I'd like to point out, too, that I'm joined by the Water Resource Agency's senior hydrologist, Amy Woodrow, who's been our lead on the groundwater monitoring program. And yeah, the reason for well registration now, maybe what is most interesting to most people, is that it's currently free. And it will be until the end of January of 2026. And that is because of a grant that we're able to rely upon to cover the costs of initial well registration through that time frame. The reason for well registration, backing up beyond just it's free and that's good, is something people like is in 2014, the state enacted a law called the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. And the intentions of that law are to protect the access to groundwater, to sustain it over time. And, and really the wells that are most vulnerable to changes in groundwater are residential wells. And they historically in the Salinas Valley haven't been a part of the groundwater monitoring program. Agricultural wells have been, municipal wells have been, but this is new for residential well owners. And so that's why we're, appreciative of this opportunity to remind people of the requirement to register. The requirement comes from a state mandate. There is this opportunity to register now for free. And, the reasons for registering is really to protect those wells that residents own, for future use.
So we talked a little bit about who has been part of the program before and who is part of the program now. Who needs to register at this point?
Yeah, well, all wells need to register, but most, if not all, ag and municipal wells have been registered in the past under the prior program. Residential wells didn't need to register, but recent changes in the standards have, made that a requirement now. And so that's why we're really focused on the smaller well owners who haven't been a part of the program in the past. In order for the management of the groundwater basin to be cost effective and for it to be successful for all well owners, we need to know where those wells are, even the small ones. And we need to know the characteristics of those wells, because if the only thing we're seeing are the large ag or municipal wells, they tend to be deeper. And if we're managing to the wrong depths or to the wrong water quality, we're maintaining that risk to those residents that we want to avoid. And so that's why we're really focused on residential well owners.
But why not really just focus on the big users? Because if we're talking about shared resources, if we're talking about we all need water, we all need it. Why not really just stick with the people who use really 90%, maybe 80 to 90% of the water? Maybe my percentage is off, but that use the vast majority of it.
Yeah, of course. And I think this is the difference between monitoring the groundwater basin and managing the groundwater basin. And so in order for us to monitor the groundwater basin, to understand how it's changing in elevation, if it might be changing in quality, that requires us to be able to see all the different wells. And how much water they use really doesn't change the need to see that, right? The decisions that get made about how we're going to manage the groundwater basin will be dependent on those management actions. And they very well could focus more predominantly on the larger water users. But those management actions are yet to come. Right now, it's the monitoring effort that we're focused on and growing our understanding about, the state of the groundwater basin. And that's important so that we can inform those future management decisions. We don't want to overmanage, right, and expend money and resources that we didn't need to, but we also don't want to undermanage, because in that case, the state could come in, we could lose local control over our planning and management efforts. And so, so this is about right sizing the future for sustainability.
And you mentioned overmanage and undermanage. And people, everybody looks at this in a different way. And you heard a lot from growers, from people with wells about this whole program. What are you hearing from them, and what are the responses that you're able to share with them about the value of the program?
Yeah, I think, for the agricultural community and for the municipal communities that have, been participating in well registration and water usage reporting for some time now, this is sort of a continuation for them. And so there's a lot of comfort there in the direction that the program's going. For the folks that are new to this, I think the questions are very similar to what you're asking here today. Why do I need to register? Why now? And those are very natural questions, right? And so we try to engage with them and inform them about the importance and the benefit to the individual well owner, because for the most part, residential wells, as I mentioned earlier, they tend to be shallower, but also, those homeowners tend to be less capable of adjusting to changes in groundwater than, say, a municipality or a large agricultural enterprise. And so we want to make sure that homeowners' wells are protected and that they aren't suffering from surprises or incurring costs that are affordable because we didn't manage the groundwater adequately.
And most of those residential well owners are used to dealing with the health department and other agencies that are worried about the quality of the water and, making sure that what they have is safe to drink.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And the health department, continues to play a role in all of this. They continue to be the well permitting entity. And if you need to do repairs on your well, it's the health department that you'd go to for the permits for that. They continue to pull water samples on small water systems for, the water quality that they're looking at is the potability of the water, right? Is it okay to drink? When we're looking at water quality, we're looking at it in the context of seawater intrusion, right? And trying to manage that, much larger issue. And so, I appreciate that it gets confusing because there are a lot of entities that are involved in all of this, and we work very hard to work closely together and to be efficient in our work. But yeah, the health department's role does continue here.
So for people who have not yet registered, what should they do? What's their next step?
Yeah, well, and thank you, Amy. And go online and register there. There's a web address here. There's also a number and an email address. And so there are a number of different ways to access the agency in terms of the well registration piece of it. And then there's just, some standard questions that you'll be asked about, the location of the well, the characteristics of the well. And again, we want to know those things because, knowing how deep the well is important, knowing how much water it moves is important. And all of that information helps inform future management. So,
and there's also a phone number and an email there. So for people who still have concerns, people who just aren't ready or still really are not sure what to do, there are people at the other end of the email, other end of the phone line who can answer some of those hard questions.
That is correct. And so oftentimes when people do have questions, they will call the number, and we will get back to you. If someone isn't immediately available, we will get back to you.
Thank you for walking us through this again. And we really hope that people take advantage of that free registration, because free is always good.
Free is fun.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here today. Really appreciate it. And being here in person.
Yep.
It's great.
Appreciate it. Thank you.